Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to talk about episode 22. We are feeling 22 today, and that is so fitting because I do have not the birthday boy, but the birthday weekend boy. It's a bit belated, but I do have the great Chappell. Chappell, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be spending my birthday weekend with you and the other viewers of Australian Survivor and the listeners of this podcast. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes, well, as well for your birthday, what a gift. The first two 1-1-1 in Australian Survivor history, the second in the global Survivor history that I have watched. I had a lot of fun with this show. I thought that they did this so well, where they showed all of the one votes. It was a perfect circle, which you gotta love. And Zara knew it. I think she's the first one in history because in 45, no one knew what the heck was going on about what the 2-1-1-1 was gonna be. Zara actually knew it. She had the full decision. I have so many thoughts about it, but the gift of a plurality vote on your birthday, what more could you ask for on this day?
And I get to talk to you about it. Like watching the episode is one thing and being like, oh, this is intricate. This sounds like fun. I would love to break this down. I would love to hear Shannon talk about it. I was like, wait, she's going to talk about it with me. That's crazy. Okay, cool. Watch it. Pay attention because there's going to be a lot of coming over the top coming up in this conversation. And so I need to be ready. I'm not quite sure I am. I couldn't even imagine being in this position if I'm Zara, because just think about it. And I know we're going to have a lot to say about her decision in this moment, but Survivor's hard enough to process at home when we're watching it on TV from the safety of our homes and the comfort of our homes with food and air conditioning and all this other stuff. But you're out there starving for almost 2 months. And then you're realizing like, oh, wait, if this number go over here and then this one goes over here and then this one goes over here, and then I guess I could do this, but then this person wants to go here. And then you're like, oh God, I think it's all me. I think it's all on me. And this could be a crucial moment. What am I supposed to do? I do not envy the spot, but I do love it for television.
Yeah, well, you see the penny drop because the main gap that Zara has is I don't think that she knows for sure that Miles has an idol. And when she doesn't know if Miles is vulnerable, like if Miles is safe, then she always had the power. But if Miles is vulnerable and Kate is on Miles, then she gets to a position where if she does vote for Kate, it goes to a revote where Kaylyn's voting for Miles. Well, yeah, because Miles is vulnerable at that point. Sorry, if she votes for AJ, we're already on the tie. It's been 2 minutes in.
Slow down. You have to set the table first.
And if Miles is vulnerable and there are 2 votes on Miles, it's a trickier situation for her. We'll start there. We'll start broad. Because I do want to start broad because it is true that Survivor is so hard. And even in my long note writing, I'm really trying with all of these ties and all of these votes, and it is hard for them. So then how can I come in every episode and be like, Zara, I should give more grace. And I do give grace because I think it's a complicated game. But for Zara alone, this felt so clear to me. I've been waiting to rant about it since I watched the episode.
Zara, what's on your mind?
Zara, what happened? Every episode, it feels like I come in here and I'm like, Zara, vote out AJ, take the shot. You are becoming Monica Culpepper. You are becoming Katurah. You are the person who never does the thing. And the jury are going to be like, you didn't do the thing. You didn't do the thing. And now even the guys turn on each other, giving her the power to do the thing. And she enables AJ again. And here's why I'm upset. I'm upset because yesterday I said, if Zara lets Morgan walk out that door, she can't win. Who's she going to beat? There's no path. Her game dies with Morgan. However, a path opened up. And how did it open up? It opened up because I was wrong in my calculations. I thought that AJ and Miles should prioritize each other. It seems like AJ sees that. He says to Miles, it wouldn't make sense for you're not incentivized to take me out. But no, Miles is relying on Zara. Miles tells us he's betting the house on Zara. He's handing his game to Zara. And I was like, that is so much power, Zara. The game is back. Look at the pathway that you have. You're at the final 5. And you know that it's a 1-1-1-1-1-1. Yeah, there's 4 ones there. And you know you're going to pile your vote on someone. And what are you going to do? You're going to take out AJ and you're going to go to the jury and you're going to say, look what I did. I knew there were 4 ones and I piled my vote on AJ. I took AJ out of the game. Then we'll talk about it. Miles has set it up pretty well that Kate probably does go at 4. They're in a good 2-1-1 spot. And also they've at that point brought Kaylyn over. They're making Kate vote for Kaylyn. Great spot for Kate to go. Any concern she has about being with Kate in the final 3 challenge, unimportant. Kate's not meant to be there. Take out Kate at the final 4. And then, but this is the crucial part of the plan. And then when you are likely to win the challenge at the final 3 and you have Kaylyn and Miles, you don't cut Kaylyn. You cut Miles and you go to the jury and you say, I cut AJ. And Miles handed me his game. And then I cut Miles. And they were the whole game. AJ and Miles, they had 300 freaking confessionals, and I cut them both. And that is a great argument, Zara. What happened? Okay. I feel a lot better. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I do. And it makes me question Zara's perception of AJ. You know, as people, we've been, breaking this down week to week, episode by episode. For the first time ever, we've been taking this thing day by day. And early on, we were like, can AJ win the game still? The way he's acting, the way he's approaching some of his social bonds and some of his strategic moves, can he win the game? I think after a month or so, we were like, yeah, I think so. I think he can win the game. But it's Zara seeing it like that. It's Zara seeing it as AJ is just somebody who she can trust, that she will eventually cut when she wins the final immunity challenge. And so that's not why she's not concerned about this right now. Is that her thought process and thinking, I have to do that because if Kate gets that far, she's cutting me. She's not cutting him. I'm the one who will take the shot at him when the time comes. I can just kick this can down the road. What do you think?
Well, at the point where she's going to get to the final 3 with AJ and Miles, she'll just be choosing who wins between AJ and Miles. She needs to get rid of both of them before the final 3. Now, I'm already very concerned about the fact that she wants to go to the final 2 with Miles. Like, that already is upsetting. Even if she'd taken out AJ here, I'd be like, that's concerning. But then I'm like, maybe she'll decide in time that that's clearly the wrong decision. But to let them both get through here, to take through Kate, who again is not meant to be in the final 3 challenge with you. In Miles' plan that he gives you, you're not even doing the final challenge with Kate. You are getting rid of her next time, and then you're taking Kaylin, and then you're telling them that you got rid of him, Zara. I think I said it yesterday. Like, she says that, Kate has 2 similar skills for her. Like, she's too focused on Kate. Focus on A. I know this might have been really frankenbitten, but any of the confessionals, if there's any legitimacy to the confessionals that were like, Kate's too close to AJ, I just want to bang my head against the wall because then just vote AJ. Yeah. It genuinely, like, they gave her the game. Like, so much credit, firstly, that she knows where the 2-1-1-1 is. That's a lot of information. She's, like, the guys are very reliant on her because they don't really have a lot of space to move, but I guess she is knowing them as well. Credit to all of that, but then extreme discredit to having all of that, to having the 2 pathways and then choosing the wrong door. This was, so I'm not happy about it, Chappell. Yeah.
Do you think this is just a bad read on her from about Miles's position against her in the end game? She was there with Miles at the bottom multiple times. And so she does know the way the tribe perceives him, or at least from her perception of like how she perceives him. Maybe she thinks socially amongst all the rest of the people, he's the best person that she could go up against. I know you said she should probably be going against Kaylin in the final 2, but based on what we know, Kaylin's has a pretty good social relationship with these people. I don't know if these people love Zara, and so maybe she's like, the jungle rat, that's something that negative, that I can take and say, okay, look, I got here with the rat. You don't trust him. He was doing all this crazy stuff. He betrayed you all. But look at me. Like I took out some of the bigger people later, earlier on, the social threats, and I got here with the one person that y'all might dislike, I guess, less than, more than me. And so I don't know. Do you just feel like the Miles and Zara move is just a losing move for her regardless? What do you think the jury makeup is? I guess, and we'll have to talk about that for sure. But just at first glance, you think the jury is leaning toward Miles?
Yes. I mean, I think Miles has done a great job of, minimizing his jury potential in this endgame and like putting him and Zara in the same boat where it's like, they're the jury threats. We're going to get through together. And I don't agree. Like, I mean, the way she talks about Miles, like, I've had to clean up the messes and stuff. Like, I can see how she might think that and be like, I was the parent actually doing this. The jury won't like that. The jury wants like the mess. Like, the jury are going to love Miles' story. I don't even know if she can beat Kaylin. Even in the path that I gave, I don't know that she beats Kaylin because I don't know if the jury like her enough. I think a coven member going to a coven jury is a nightmare. But I think that it is a jury of fans, of super fans, who I think would really respect the argument that she took AJ and Miles out of the game when they've run the entire game. I think sitting next to them, we've seen this before. We saw the way Parvati took Russell through and people were like, we don't like that. Cut the people. Especially when, like, to be fair, like, they didn't like Russell. Like, you do want to sit next to Russell. They like AJ, and I think they'll really like Miles' story. So either way, I wouldn't go to the end with them. I think they'll get extreme respect and are liked. Now, Kaylin is also liked. I do think it's still a tough path to beat Kaylin. I just think that it's like a really, really good argument for fans who I think will respect that on the jury. So yeah, I think she's misunderstanding her place against Miles. I think that if she knew what seems like she had a lower jury chance She'd be looking more at the Morgans, she'd be looking more at the Kaylyns, and she'd be making the big moves, which people clearly want her to do to get there. And I think that if I'm on the jury and I'm like a Kate, I'm like, I offered this to you every week, every day, and all you did was enable mostly AJ. So
yeah,
there's no argument there at that point, let alone she's sitting next to people who are too strong for her.
I'm trying to skidoo into her brain, right? Like if I'm Zara and I'm thinking, okay, these are my options. How do I win? It looks like she's just going to try to win out, right? Like that's why she needs these big comp threats out. She needs Kate out because she's an endurance person. She needs Kaylin out because he's an endurance person, right? These are the two people who can beat her. She's thinking, if I win enough, right, and we get rid of these people, yeah, I'm sitting next to AJ and Miles, but I got myself here. You know, like if anything, I dragged them here because I won. They couldn't get me out, or I was able to win when it mattered the most. I think she's looking for maybe an exclamation point on the end. She talks about her resume a lot in this episode and in the last episode, and I think, yeah, for her, it's like, yeah, people don't really love AJ, but like I could get here and be like, yeah, what has AJ done in the last 3 votes? Like he voted out all his allies, but I'm still here. I won. I took out Kate. I took out Kaylin. AJ and Miles can't touch me. I'm in the final. Like I'm in the final 2 for sure. Because I'm going to beat them. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily something you can count on, considering Miles is not a slouch in the challenges. We've seen him before. AJ is kind of like the GOAT that she's dragging in her mind. Like, this is the person I know I can beat if it comes down to it in a final 3 challenge.
No, she said she can't beat. As in the challenge.
Yes,
she said she can't beat
in a challenge. Yeah, okay. She's trying to get rid of the physical threats to her getting to the end in Kaylin and Kate. And so for her, it was like, I got to get out Kate, because if I let her slide through this round, she will win and she is not going to take me. And Kaylin will win and he is not going to take me, because they're both going to look at me as the people who are standing in their way. I need to go with the people who are going to be the path of least resistance to get to the end. I don't know if she's so much thinking, can I win once I get there? But she needs to get there.
Yeah. Prize money for second place is $0, firstly.
Which is crazy.
Secondly, the plan is for her to win the final 3 immunity challenge in the plan to take out AJ now anyway. Kate is going next anyway. If anything now, it's a really tricky final 4 where it's 2 pairs. Like, Miles is setting up a 2-1-1, or, well, not even, it wouldn't have been a 2-1-1. Both sides are just relying on you. You're just voting out Kate. It actually is just a 3-1. I just want everything to be a plurality vote. But we have enough here. He's setting it up so well where the power is your pair in a 2-1-1, and they're just going with you. So, firstly, you would have the power in a final 3 challenge, and you would use it well to cut Miles. So I think that the issue is that she's like, I'm going to be targeted. Like, people, you're not actually going to be as targeted as you think, because I think people want to sit with you at the end. So it's more, it's like, I think this is a big thing in Survivor, just generally. Everyone comes in and thinks that they're a big threat. You see it all the time. Right. This is why people lie about their profession. Can't let people know that I'm this and this. Yeah. Some people need to actually respect you. Kaylin should downplay it. Like, Kaylin knows how someone like him is perceived. But then you see someone like Kelly last season is like, can't let people. Actually, if people respect you more, that would be better for your game. This is a big issue that runs through all of Survivor. Then it gets to the end. How can I make sure that I'm not targeted? Actually, being targeted is the least of your worries. Getting through to the jury and telling them that you did something rather than sitting on your hands and enabling AJ every single day is way more of the issue. So I think that this is actually a big macro strategy now that I'm just thinking about in Survivor. You need to see, what angle are you coming at it from? Are you someone who's like above it and needs to minimize, or you someone who's below it and needs at that point to get more respect? She needs to be making big moves to the point where maybe she is a big enough target to take out, and then it becomes a concern. Right now, it's not a concern. Right now, it's about getting through with an argument that maybe might make you win, and not even definitely. Probably not even probably.
Probably not even
That's
probably.
where we're at with Zara.
Yes, but hear me out. You say that people probably want to sit next to her, but who does? We know Miles does, he's the only one. But he's the only one. Kaylin and AJ have decided that they are going to the final 2 together.
Kaylin should want to sit next to her.
But
I don't know that Kaylin's taking AJ. I don't know that, actually.
Well, we know AJ. Look, say it. Yeah, but he's protecting AJ. So I think maybe he just knows AJ will take him. But that's the thing. We've never heard Kaylin say he was going to take Zara. We've never heard anybody say they were going to take Zara except for Miles. So for her, it's like, it doesn't make any sense to cut Miles. If anything, you could target the rest of these people at him with, I think, what she did in this episode by leaving him hanging. People are definitely going to be looking at him. But AJ has no ambition to go to the end with her. He doesn't have any ambition.
Like in this situation, she's voting AJ out, so who cares? He's done.
I mean, Kate doesn't want to go with her either.
Kate's going next. We've got a perfect pathway, and then you will win at the final 3. And if Kaylin wins, he should definitely take you. Although I do think at that point, she should win to take out Miles. Like the big part of the argument is like taking out Miles.
She needs to win. Yeah, she needs to win.
And Miles will take you anyway. So you're getting to the final 3 where everyone would take you. Again, in a bad way. But she should win and cut Miles because it's important to her argument. But yeah, that final 3 is amazing for her. And we have such a clear path of why Kate should go next.
Yeah, so, look, she doesn't want to sit at the final 3. But she doesn't want to sit at the final 3 knowing that her only hope is beating Kaylin in the challenge. Kaylin, who broke the record for the most. Yeah, at the final 3, if it's her, Kaylin, and Miles, then she has to win.
No, Kaylin could take her, but she just won't win. But the thing is, she's not going to win now. She's not going to win at a final tribal council right now. But if it's a final 3 with Kaylin, her, and Miles, like, yeah, Miles should be voted out. And Miles takes her anyway. Everyone, she gets to the end 3 out of 3 times at that final 3. It's just that if she wins the challenge, she has a way better argument.
Right. And I think for her, winning the challenge is probably the most important thing. And I think that's why she's, of course, targeting Kate and Kaylin, because she thinks those are the people who are going to stop her from having that big glory moment. I think that's really what it comes down to, because you're right. I think that in the position that she's in, you really have these guys targeting each other. You could weaponize all of this and just make it a lot farther by using them while they're pointing at each other to take each other out. I mean, that's the whole thing. When we talk about this, when it's 4-4, we're like, who are you going to use to do your dirty work? You can't let them pick off all your numbers. That's why I was like yelling like, Kristen, go to Rocks, because who are you going to have that's going to work with you? You won't have any allies. She's got to the point where her allies are now turning on each other. This is perfect. This is the perfect time to pounce. But I think that, and I've been watching it, in the last episode, just the way that she talks to AJ and the way they talk to Miles and Kaylin, she kind of goes to them and says, okay, here's the scenario. Now what happens? What's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? And they all seemingly will go through that thought process with her. And for her, she's just landing on like, nah, I need to be able to do something for my resume. I hear y'all, but like at the end of the day, I need to have something to say I made it here. And I think for her, winning is what that looks like, but who knows?
It's so unfortunate because it's just completely the wrong read on what a resume is. Like, gonging Kate through this vote so that it's graduates final 4, so that you're at a 2-2 where maybe Miles goes next or it's fire is not the pathway. Saying that you took out AJ and can so much take credit, almost individual credit for that vote, and then that you have the power to take out Miles later, like, it's there. It's right there. It's right there. Yeah. Anyway, it's killing me slowly. But yeah, it was on the fact that she does realize it's going to be this 1-1-1-1 vote. And that was really cool. Like, she saw the door in front of her. So, okay, so if Miles is vulnerable, then she feels like, then if Kate is voting for Miles, then she can pile onto Kate. And it's like the tie becomes Miles and Kate. And at that point, Miles would go home. Or if she votes for AJ, then it becomes Miles and AJ. And then Kaylin will vote for Miles. And she and Kate will decide if AJ goes. And you would think maybe... that, maybe she just, like, Kate just votes out Miles, but AJ would have just split on Kate. So there's the reduced capacity. But when she realized, but we know that Miles has an idol. So at any point she would have had the power, but she doesn't know that. And in finding out it was the one, we see that, like, again, that moment. And I've worked out the tie now that I think makes sense. But yeah, at any point when Miles was going to get 2 votes and was going to be vulnerable, it was going to be a much worse path. But we know that this was, like, so locked up. Like, AJ knows that Miles has the idol and Zara is immune and they are screwed. Like, the way that he talks about it, like, again, they can't get a 3-person majority of him, Kate, and Kaylin on anyone because they have to vote for one of the 3 of them. Assuming Miles is going to play the idol on himself. They're very reliant on Zara for that because, again, if Miles is playing the idol on himself and if Zara and Miles are voting together, like, there's nothing they can do. So he knows that. Like, I do think the Chiefs know them to a degree and they're like, think they're in a split with Kate and Zara. They have neither. But I also think they're just so reliant. They're just having to hope that Zara is with them. And she is. And can I just credit AJ on this? Because he wanted Kate gone yesterday, and it worked. He wanted Kate as a shield, and that happened because Zara doesn't do this if it's Morgan. She takes out Kate because Kate is a threat. And that really worked out well yesterday, that he wanted her as a shield, and it, like, perfectly played out here.
I mean, it worked out that his intention, I mean, he was correct in what the outcome was going to be, but I mean, JLP kind of threw him a little alley-oop with this, extra immunity. Because I was thinking, well, that's convenient, like make no mistake. Well, Kate winning, it just goes to that, but that just like reinforces exactly what Zara's saying, right? It's like, when I need her out, I can't get her out. And when I need to win, I can't win because she's here. You know, it's like, damn, I lost to Kaylin, but then damn, I lost to Kate too. You know, so I think that's kind of like I think it double reinforces exactly what you're saying, right? Like we see that the outcome is exactly what AJ was planning for, which is Kate can go next. But for Zara, she's like, yeah, but like if I got her last time, like you said, Morgan's here. And if Morgan's here, we got a whole different ball game. So yeah, things are working out. I mean, they even say, I think JLP even says it in the opening, like, yep, and things just keep working out for AJ. I was like, yeah, it's funny how that happens. He's cooking right now.
Yeah, well, I think that what we said about this in the original 2111 in 45 was like sometimes you put in good work beforehand so that when things like completely implode, that work carries through to save you. Like AJ could have gone here and he definitely doesn't know what's happening and he's trying to split again with 4 people. He only has himself and Kaylin, but it's the good work before, to be fair, the good work of Kate winning immunity, but it was the right intention to have Kate that will carry through to her being a shield. And I think as well for Kaylin, that shielding strategy also has worked where he was never going to go here because there are bigger threats. And that's something he's worked on through time. So you see kind of like that soft strategy play out, even when everyone is kind of blindsided here, other than Zara, who's making the wrong move, which made the chizzy really, really hard in this episode. But let's talk about it for Miles, because Miles here is going to put his game in Zara's hands and she's going to screw him. But I think she does also want to sit with him at the end. So was that a good move? I would be like, don't do that, because then she can cut you and take out Kaylin. She just won the game, but she doesn't seem like she was going to do that. But then here she takes out Kate. So she's like, she's not a reliable ally. Yeah. What do you think about him betting the house on Zara here?
I mean, it was interesting because he's betting the house on Zara to take out AJ. And I think a couple episodes ago, I was saying, like, I'm shocked that AJ wants to go to the end with Miles. That's crazy. And now I'm seeing that, no, he has no intention of going to the end with Miles. He wants to go with Kaylin. That makes sense. But then from the flip side, you're like, Miles, you can't possibly want to go to the end with AJ, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you can make an argument for either one of their games. But if you have other options, like a Zara, you know, like Kaylin, you know, like Kate, or, you know, RIP, pouring out, like, do you really risk it going to the end with AJ? You don't. And so I thought it was very interesting. He's like, okay, this is my chance to get AJ out if AJ is the biggest threat on the board. I think that this is his chance, right? Like, I think if you're Miles, when else do you plan on taking him out, right? Like, you have the idol that can protect you if you feel like things are getting a little freaky, and you seemingly have the numbers because you have Zara, who is incentivized to go with you to the final 2 because she thinks that she can beat you, and they're presenting it like they can beat, like you said, that they're at the bottom, right? Like, oh yeah, we got to take out these power brokers. So yeah, you and I, we're down here together kicking it, and this is how we take out the big dog. So I thought it was an interesting move, but yeah, having to rely on Zara is a bit of a hiccup here because, you know, you're assuming that she is going to come with you. And as you've been saying, Shannon, she probably should have. She probably should have gone with his plan of taking out AJ. So Miles has had a misread on Zara's incentives, if you will, to get to the end.
Yeah, I think that this is something I think Richard Hatch has spoken about. It's like sometimes logical players read logic into other players who aren't going to be logical, and that's like the hardest part of the game. So like AJ's reading that Miles shouldn't necessarily take AJ out now, and I agree with that because I've been saying they're not going to get to the end together, but if they get to the final challenge together, they have the other one there to paint as the other target to get them through. And I think that's what AJ is banking on for Miles not turning on him to the point where he's like, I would give up an immunity necklace. That's extreme, but I understand how he's reading that incentive. And then for Miles, I think I've ranted enough about why he should think that Zara should go with him here, and he, like, you know, to be fair, I think that she should go with him here so that she can cut him later. I don't know that he's thinking that. And I do think, to be fair, the incentive is less for Zara if she's going to make this move with Miles and then sit next to Miles. But I think you are getting her on like a big move and like making her a part of something, and there should be something there. So on that, I do think that, like, I understand going for AJ here with Zara. I will say for Miles, on the pathway he's presenting, it could be flipped. So like, let's look at it here. You take out AJ, then you have to take out Kate next time, and then you take out Kaylin. Or you can take out Kaylin here, and then you have to take out Kate next time, and then you take out AJ at the final 3. I think there are pros and cons. I think that AJ is worse at the final 3 challenge. So maybe it would make more sense actually to just take out Kaylin here and let AJ come with you to the final 3. And also then it doesn't give Zara that chance to vote out you over, like, because then she should definitely vote out AJ, but I think she should go with a Kaylin. So it doesn't give that. But again, I do think that Zara is just going to take him. So I think that you can kind of minimize the threat of that. But yeah, I think that taking out Kayn here is an interesting idea, but then you don't get like the big move as much as you necessarily wanted. I think he's like, I just kind of also want to have some fun. So I think that's going into his calculations. The biggest thing that I would say about why you should take out AJ here rather than a Kayn is that I think that taking out Kayn here and putting Kate onto a Kayn vote really assures Kate going next. Where Kayn at that point, yeah, they think emotionally is like, wants to take out Kate. At the final 4, she's just voted for him. And I think that if you are Kayn, it probably just makes sense to take out Kate, because if you try and go for like a Miles, you know, Kate and Zara might take each other. If you take out like a Kate, then Zara should take you. Like the reason it makes sense for Kayn to take out Kate next is because I see this path where Zara and Kayn sit at the final 2 together. Whereas I think that if AJ is taken through here and Kayn is taken out, then there's a world in which, you know, AJ is teaming up with Kate, who we know he's really worked with before, on some sort of 2-2 to get through to take out like a Zara, and maybe Kate takes AJ more than like a Zara is going to take AJ over Miles. So I think that taking out Kate next time, it's best to keep Kayn here, best to keep Kayn and Kate separate, where AJ and Kate could always work together at the final 4. So that alone is probably enough of a reason for me to take out an AJ here. But again, a lot of the assumptions of what I think Kayn should do is the fact that I think that Kayn should be pulling over Zara to take him through to the end over Miles. I don't know how much Miles is thinking about that, but it does seem a lot less likely that Kate and Kayn will work together at the final 4. So I think that it makes sense here to take out AJ, even though he probably could have just left AJ to get rid of him at the final 3, where Zara's hopefully going to win that challenge against a worse competitor in AJ than Kayn.
Yeah, you brought up the idea of like, well, if you don't take out AJ, do you just go ahead and take out Kayn here? And I really did love how the episode outlined, you know, exactly how Kayn landed on that train of thought as well. Kayn also was thinking, it wouldn't be awful to take me out here. If I'm Miles, maybe I will do something weird. He has an idol. He could save Kate, and he could very much take me out. So what did you think about Kayn's rat trap to capture Miles if he did decide to, you know, go rogue?
Well, it didn't. I mean, it was a split that necessitated 4 people where they didn't have half of those people. I think that was the issue. But the thing is, they're relying so much on Zara, because again, if Zara's not with them, if Zara and Miles, who are both probably immune, and AJ knows definitely pretty much immune, are both like working together, then there's nothing they can do. So I think that, like, again, everything hinged on Zara, who they don't have, but they have the shielding strategy. They have Kate in front of them. That is the reason it defensively saves them here. And then for Kate not being with them, I think that the thing is, Kate was offered 2 non-plans. Like, Kate was offered neither of the real plans. Like, she was given Kayn on an AJ plan from Miles, and she was given Miles on a Miles and Kate plan. And even hearing that she'd be a split from that side too, from the AJ side. So, and at the point where you can kind of assume that Miles has the idol and you're hearing you might be a split, like, I also am probably just like, oh, are we getting 3 votes on Kayn and doing that? So I think that they didn't do enough. They're internally splitting on Kate. So I don't think that they did enough to get Kate over to being part of her own split vote. And Zara wasn't with them, but Zara also wasn't against them due to defensive shielding, which was like the best thing that they could get out of this, because it's a very, very tough spot where 2 people who technically they should be against are immune. Yeah, that's a terrible spot for AJ and Kayn.
Yeah, and then Miles, you know, deciding to play the idol on himself, you know, as opposed to playing it on Kate and, you know, really making her immune and kind of, you know, throwing the numbers off here. I thought it was interesting. You know, I was very happy Miles played it on himself. What do you think about the conversation with AJ and Miles, where AJ comes to him and just says, like, could you not be weird? Could you just like play it on yourself, please? Like, don't do that.
I didn't even consider that he would play this on Kate. I would rather, because at the point where Zara is immune and you're immune, again, Zara should be doing this. So there should be no way that it should go wrong. If you're immune, again, we see worlds in which if Kate's voting for Miles, he might be in some sort of trouble, even on like a 2-2-1 revote. So that you wouldn't want. Like, yeah, again, like Zara, even if Zara's with him, what if Kate and Kayn vote him out if it's like a AJ Miles revote? So you always want to protect yourself. You'd hate to go home saving Kate, who's been nothing to him. You know you're going to go to the final 4 with Zara, who's your partner, to at least a 2-2, which is what happened with Kate going, which was kind of the worst case scenario and isn't so bad. And again, is so unforeseeable, because why are you doing that, Zara? So Yeah, I think I never even considered he wouldn't play it on himself. I think that they're being a little too tricky, trying to split around what he might do. But at the same time, they just, I mean, I think they're just throwing things at the wall at the point where like he might do that, but they're just, like splitting their votes again doesn't really matter. All that matters is if Zara's with them. At that point, then they can split with her. Or if she's not, then they're screwed. So I think that that's kind of how they're looking at it there, where they can kind of assume the two people on the other side of this four, the other half of the graduates, are both going to be immune. If AJ can assume that, like we even see him, he's like, this is not a good situation.
But AJ ends up getting what he wants here, right? Like he's the only one, well, aside from Zara, obviously, who wants Kate to go in this moment, right?
No, he doesn't want Kate to go. He wants Miles to go.
But AJ voted for Kate, didn't he?
Yeah, but they were splitting because the idol is deciding it, whichever way that it goes. I think that he should actually want Kate to go for what it's worth over Miles. That takes them to a 2-2, which is uncomfortable for AJ. However, I think he should want to go through to the final 3 with Miles. Like, I think if he can get through where Zara goes next, and it's like Kaylin and Miles, then Kaylin is more incentivized to take him through to the final 2. Because again, we don't know if Kaylin's going to do that, but I think over Miles, maybe he does that. So I think at the point where he can try to take the shot on Zara next time, I do think that's better. What do you think?
See, I was under the impression that he wanted Kate out. Like this was just the end of the road for Kate. He used her to the point where it's like, okay, I can't get any further with her right now in the game. He tells Miles to play the idol on himself, like, hey, make sure you don't do nothing crazy, but make sure you play the idol on yourself. Don't try to do nothing weird. Because I'm trying to get rid of Kate here. Like I think this is AJ is like the only person who really wants Kate out aside from Zara. It seems, at least from my perspective. I actually didn't think he was even targeting Miles. It felt like Miles was targeting AJ is targeting Kate, and then Kaylin is also targeting Kate, but trying to make sure Miles doesn't do something weird.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, he knows that Miles has an idol, and the idol will decide who goes home. So it almost doesn't matter what he wants. But I do think that having the scene where he's like, play it on yourself does show that he would prefer for Kate to go. And I do think that that's better. Even again, that makes, I think, final 4 trickier, because if he takes out Miles and he's at a final 4 with like Kate, Zara, himself, and Kaylin, I feel like he's controlling that situation better. But then it's like, if you take out Kate at the final 4, Zara and Kaylin, like that's a really like Kaylin might vote you out to take Zara through. And I think that Kaylin should want to do that. So I think Kate would be in really big trouble there. Like I don't love him getting to a final 3 with Zara and Kaylin, where Kaylin should take Zara, where Zara should take Kaylin. But I think that if he gets to a final 3 with Kaylin and Miles, where Miles is less likely to win the challenge as well, he would take probably Kaylin, but like where Kaylin's more likely to take him over Miles, I think that that's good. So I would go through to the trickier final 4 to try and keep Miles through. And I think that is what he's trying to do, but he just knows that it's a very restricted situation for him anyway. Because Miles, at that point, Miles and Zara have so much power. So he's just kind of relying on that. But yeah, I do think that that's his best path. I think that AJ's path is tricky for me because I don't know if Kaylin would take him. I think Kaylin's less likely to win a challenge than, say, like a Zara. And yeah, I just think that that's like a tougher path compared to what Miles had, which was seemingly we've heard that Zara wanted to take him and she's so likely to win that final challenge. So I see the light of that now that it's been ruined, but I saw the light of Miles's path. And I think that AJ's path was tricky regardless, because we know that like Kaylin's whole thing is he's more strategic than we think. So maybe he's going to take out like an AJ. And I don't know that we can bet on Kaylin winning a final challenge, which is usually like a small little like annoying like pokey foot challenge maybe, where he can't necessarily win that. So I kind of feel like AJ's path is harder, but I would rather go through to a 4 without Kate, which is what he ends up getting. So yeah, it worked out pretty well. You can't say that it was by design, but yeah, that's what he gets.
Yeah, AJ. Now that you're talking through, AJ and Kaylin both want. I mean, they like AJ, Kaylin, and Zara are all aligned in wanting Kate out here. It's just the way they went about it.
Kaylin wants Miles.
Well, that's the thing. He only did the Miles, trap in case Miles played the idol on Kate, but Kate was the target. He was just like, I'm going to do this just to ensure you don't go and like basically save her instead of saving yourself.
Right.
But he always counted on Miles saving himself. So yeah, she chose her side. Zara chose her side, and it's the AJ and Kaylin's side as opposed to the Miles and just her and Miles' side, I guess. I don't know if she feels like there's still a way she can get to the end with Miles, because that was what she was saying was her final 2. But you're right. She's in a tight spot here. I have questions about Kaylin and his loyalty to AJ. We've kind of tap danced around it a couple times, but AJ says, Kaylin is my ride or die. I cannot let Kaylin go, so Kate has to go here. You know, and that's just it. This is the save Kaylin plan. It really wasn't even the target Kate plan. It was more like it can't be Kaylin, and I can't let Miles take out Kaylin, so I have to be Kate right now. But for Kaylin, he never expressly says he wants to go to the end with AJ. Do you think that this is reciprocated? Is AJ Kaylin's ride or die as well?
I don't know that I can say that until I hear from Kaylin that he would take AJ to the end. That's why I think that AJ getting to the end with Miles and Kaylin, where he's a more possibly an attractive option to sit next to compared to Miles, is better. I think that if it's Zara, Kaylin, and AJ, Kaylin should take Zara 100%, and I don't know that he's silly enough not to, you know? So I haven't had the confessional that I had from Zara, which is like I would sit at the end with Miles, which was like a terrible confessional. So I don't know. I feel like AJ's path is really, really tricky and may now again come down to having Miles at the final 3 and being like, but Miles is the bigger threat. And that's what I've been saying this whole time, but he's been relying on Kaylin, and I can't say what if that was a good investment, the same way we have more information to say that from Miles's bet on Zara.
Yeah, Kaylin doesn't like to us, you know, at home. We haven't really seen a lot of Kaylin's resume that wasn't surrounded by, you know, the record-breaking challenge run that he went on. And I guess there's some question of like, is that enough to say at the final tribal council, like, look at me, I did a thing? Do you think there's a threshold for like if Kaylin wins 1 or 2 more challenges, is he just like a shoe in to win, or will some of the strategic maneuvers of the past still weigh heavily on the jury? Because 7-8 challenges in one season, Shannon, that's really hard to scoff at, especially in Australian Survivor where the show is so physical. Is Kaylin just basically just like a challenge or 2 away from being at the end and just being like, who could stop me? You know, like if I didn't want to be here, that's the only way you were going to keep me from being here because y'all can't take me out.
Yeah, I think that other Australian Survivor juries are better than this one for that. Like, people will still care, but I don't know how much like Laura cares. You know, does Logan care? Does Karen care as much about challenges compared to strategy? I just feel like it's clear. Like, obviously we're getting it shoved down our throat in the edit, but for me, it's like it's AJ and then kind of Miles's game to lose. Like, if I were to order it from a jury perspective of this 5, it would have been AJ, Miles, Gap, Kate, Kaylin in some order, Gap, Zara. That's why I feel like Zara needs to try and especially like with Kaylin, and especially like because I know that Kaylin might have more on a jury compared to what they think, like because he's really been pushing himself down. Like they could really see Kaylin as the person to sit next to, and Zara. So that's why I think it's tricky to go to the end with Kaylin and Zara because they should so much sit next to each other. And for Kaylin as well, like sitting next to AJ or Miles, it's like, yeah, he's had like the extremes of challenge wins, and AJ has had extremes of strategic domination through this merge, and Miles has had extremes through story and idols. So I still wouldn't want to sit next to that because you have your kind of, you know, category, but they have the extremes of their category. So we don't know that that's what Kaylin would want to do. He wants to take out Kate here, but again, there's so few options. Like at a point where you assume Miles isn't going to go, Zara can't go, and he wants AJ through at least, you know, for power through a 4. Kate like becomes the only option, or a Kate Miles split, and where the idol goes deciding that is really the only option for the 2 of them. Like even when AJ votes, he's like picking Kate over Kaylin. It's pretty much his only options other than himself. So there's no real good option there. So I think that within a limited capacity, that's like the best thing they're trying to do. But I don't know that that's a decision that Kaylin makes when push comes to shove at the final 3.
So is Zara drawing dead?
Now, yes, but every episode I come in and say she's drawing dead, and then I'm like, but there was this tiny little pathway,
tiny thing you could have done, yeah,
but
she's almost guaranteed to make it to the final 2 at this point, right? Like she's pretty close. I mean, I just feel like she needs to be able to take matters in her own hands, and so maybe that's why she's like, look, if I get to the final 2 and I've won a couple, maybe I beat slayed the dragon, you know, in Kaylin. That's something that she can get credit for. She can put that feather in her hat.
The matters have passed. Like the worst part about it is that she's won immunity here. So the best way to maximize what she can talk about, like her physical record, is to take out AJ and be like, look how I use that immunity to take out AJ. And then you assume she's going to win at final 3. That's what she's banking on to take out Miles. And it's like the 2 times I was immune, I took out AJ and Miles. Have I convinced you to this the same way you convinced me on Kristen picking rocks? Have I like ranted about this? Because
I could see from her perspective, but like now that I'm like stepping out of it, I'm like, but her perspective is wrong. And like, you know, based on what we've seen, at least, you know what I'm saying? You know, like now we could be wrong. We could be dead ass wrong. And the jury still hates Miles completely. And like, they just like are been at jury villa and they're just waiting on a chance to vote against him. But I mean, unless she's got some indication of that we haven't seen on TV, we don't know that, right? And so we can only base it off of, what we've seen happen, right? All these idols, the big challenge moments that he's had, the strategic maneuvering, the chaos that he's been able to bring and also survive throughout. Miles seems like an awful person to sit next to. Same thing with AJ, strategically, even socially to some extent. Like, he's just been able to work with everybody. It just doesn't look like there's a world where you would sit there either. So yeah, like, now that you talked me into it, I'm like, yeah, it's a mistake, but it's just that she has the wrong read on the situation. Right? For whatever reason, she thinks she can win against Miles. Maybe she can, but we have not seen anything to lead us to believe that that is true.
Yeah, and the thing is that she does have all the power here because they're splitting. Like, the hope is to split on to split on Kate and Miles. And if Kate is with Miles and takes it to say 2 on AJ, and then the two of them have 2 on Kate as like a 2-1, then if Zara's with them, she can vote out Kate and protect them, which is, I guess, kind of what happens here. She does join in on their split, and Kate just isn't with Miles in a way that they intended for Kate to be with Miles, and that's what makes it the 2-1-1-1. So in ways that did kind of happen, where you are kind of right. You've shifted my perspective where I'm like, she didn't intend to do this. Like, she sees herself piling on the top of the 4 ones, and I do see that, but she did really choose what she was meant to do in the Kaylin AJ split that they put out. The only thing that confuses AJ and Kaylin about this vote is that Kate's not only not with them, but then she's also not with what they would think Miles is doing. So they might think, okay, fine, the 2 of them will be on Kaylin, but that's fine. We'll still get out Kate on a 2-2-1. But instead, they split their votes on a 1-1, which again, Miles is doing with the assumption that he has Zara, which would make, a lot of sense. So, and I think also, his whole plan rests on Zara, but she should do it anyway. So that's their confusion of what they think is happening. Is that, Kate's not with them, and then it's also technically not with what they would think Miles is doing. She just votes alone, and they wouldn't understand in that moment that he has split her onto a Kaylin vote to set up a great Final Four for himself, where he and Zara are going to, win the day anyway. So it really doesn't matter that she does that and can be set up for the future.
Yeah. What did you think about the way Kate plays this? Because she does point blank lie to them. They say, so you're going with Miles? Yeah, I'm voting with Miles. Me and Miles are voting together. Oh, okay, cool, bet. And then she does not. Like, it's even to the point where, when AJ is realizing that he got a vote, he's like, who voted for me? Miles? You? Why? Like, he can't even conceptualize, like, what are you talking? Like, what did you think was going to happen here about voting for me? And then, like, did you think that was going to help you win the game? Because you clearly didn't have what you thought was going on. Y'all told us that it was going to be 2 votes on Kate, 2 votes on Miles, and then we were going to, we were going to go get out Kate, and if Kate doesn't vote with them, then she'll just go, but like, this was completely different. And so I don't know. Kate was in a tight spot, but do you think she could have saved herself in this moment?
Yeah, I think that she's doing the defensive play, which is not being the split with Miles that she's hearing that she is. She's being told it's 3 votes on Kaylin for the fact that Miles has wanted Kaylin out. And to be fair, Miles doesn't want her out. Like, she goes with the side that is, to be fair, voting on Kaylin and AJ as a split. It's like actually 2 different splits in a group of 5. You have to love the madness of what is happening here and all of these different kind of individual priorities, which is what we've been talking about. I've been saying this Endgame could get really interesting because everyone's priorities should be really different. And I think that's what we've seen here. So she does go with the side of Miles, at least, who is with her. It's just that Miles is like splitting her vote to set up the Final Four. I think what's really tough for her is that it's very, very hard for her to get through to a Final 3 regardless. Like, okay, so she wins here and AJ goes, or if they were going to be on Kaylin, whatever, Kaylin goes. The Miles side, Zara chooses the Miles side, and the Miles side wins, whether she's in on a split or not, it doesn't really matter. But then, as we're saying, for different reasons, Zara and Miles should take her out to get to a Final 3 where Miles thinks Zara's taking him through, and she probably is, and where Zara should do that to take through a Kaylin. It makes so much sense for everyone, including like a Kaylin, to take her out at the Final 4. If AJ's still there, again, like maybe AJ wants her through. I think that the best case scenario for her long-term game is if she can try get out Miles, which is the vote she's been given from AJ and Kaylin. Again, very, very tough on the assumption of an idol. If she can do that, then it's possible that like AJ might want like a Zara out next because AJ shouldn't want to get to the end with Kaylin and Zara. So he might prefer to get to the end with Kate and Kaylin, and then Kate might take him out of loyalty, or Kaylin's more likely to take him over Kate than he would over Zara. I think there's something there, but I think it's very finicky. And I think at this point, hearing she could be her own split if she votes for Miles, who's likely to have an idol, like she just does the defensive thing. I just think 4's a very tough spot for her regardless. So I think that she does the best that she can. I think it's a very, very tricky, again, situation for her as well.
Yeah, it's real tough because they're also all being like super cagey. Like if anybody just
she doesn't get either of the real plans,
right? She got the real
on
plan.
2 different splits. She's not being told the real plan on either split. Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough. It really does go to show you like how just like things can change on a dime depending on who goes and when. Because last round's episode, we see what happens there, and she's able to survive, but now it's like she's survived and put in a position where she really has nowhere to go, right? And it's like, had the other person survived, they would have had a little bit more wiggle room because they didn't have the same threat and, the same, I guess, allure to get voted out that she would have, right? And so it's really tough. It's really tough. Yeah. But Kate, I think surprised a lot of people this season. I think early on, we were barely seeing any of what she had going on in the first place. And then, toward the time where they start swapping and in the merge, of course, we see like, oh yeah, she's got some game to her, or at least she's valuable to what AJ has going on, and her and Morgan as a duo are able to make a good little run. I still think maybe they should have entertained the Rocks, but here we are. You ran out of runway. It happens.
Well, let's talk about the possibility of Rocks in the final 6, because I thought that Zara should have picked a Rock just to keep Morgan. Now, again, if she's coming over the top to like saying, I will come over the top of the split with you, maybe Kate has to throw that challenge so that Rocks isn't the option for Zara so that she can try win out. But looking at it now, I also think there might have been other options for what should have happened for Kate and Morgan yesterday, just because now, like the way my calculations have changed from yesterday is I felt like it was AJ and Miles needed to really like stick together, get to a final 3 together, and one of them wins. But now the calculations are like, oh, actually, AJ is calling Kaylin his ride or die, and we know that Miles is fully invested in Zara. So that makes their priorities really different. So in that way, I kind of look at it now and think, while, obviously Morgan over Kate was great for AJ and she uses up her shield potential here, I do wonder if you look at Zara last round, that might be very results oriented, because the hope might be that if Zara doesn't win here, you and Kaylin can just look at Zara as an option here at the final 5 with Kate, who has had a relationship with you and who also is at that point just needs to be given like a real plan and not like a half split where she might be the other half of the split. And literally her 2 plans were between 2 splits where she's not being given the real plan, but at least she went with the plan where she wasn't part of the split. It was just AJ and Kaylin. But I do think as well, it was a split, for the future. But I wonder now if it's like, should Kaylin and AJ have looked at Zara yesterday, because knowing that Miles might want to come for like a Kaylin, and knowing that again AJ's investment is in Kaylin and Miles's investment is in Zara, I do wonder for like an AJ, if you look at that, to take out a Zara so that Miles can't rely on a Zara over you and has to rely on you, and then you can come back and be like the 3 guys now can take out a Kate because you can't go to the final 4 with Kate and Morgan, and then try and run it down to what would be a really tricky final 4 there. But where to be fair, Miles has got a backup of Morgan, so he might take it to a 2-2. But I think that if you can get through that, that might be better. And also I think that Kaylin might want to maybe last time should have maybe looked at like a Miles, knowing that he might be in trouble. And also we know that obviously Miles has an idol, which is probably information that AJ should have given Kaylin, but that might have been interesting because they all had the potential to try come over the top of the split before the challenge with the girls, with Kate and Morgan. And I do wonder about that now, knowing that Miles wasn't as big a part of AJ's plan. So at the point where AJ's looking to really save Kaylin, then I do think looking at especially a Zara for him, because I think he needs Miles, but a Miles for like a Kaylin is an interesting option. But I also wonder if I'm being results oriented, because Zara, as a person who's with Miles, winning immunity here blocks it up so much, and she wasn't necessarily going to do that. So I might be being results oriented, but I think it's interesting to look back at that now, knowing the way AJ views Kaylin compared to how he was viewing, like, I thought Miles as the person he really needed in the game.
Kaylin seems very sure that Miles has an idol. Like, I think that's one of his best reads. It's like he's unmovable. He's like, I knew Miles has an idol. I know he does. It's a good assumption to have. I thought Kaylin should have gone to Rocks anyway with the votes on Miles. Because Kaylin identifies that
Well, Kaylin
everyone
was
is
immune,
saying,
so he can send them to rocks and be immune.
exactly. Why not? Why not do it?
Go to rocks every time.
But look, you're immune. If AJ goes out, it's not awful for you. Look, if you and I are sitting here saying we don't know if he wants to take AJ to the end, if he wants to sit by AJ, let's assume he doesn't. Boom, AJ could go. And look at that. Look at that. If they flip, Miles goes. And that was great. That was great too. Miles is coming for you. It'd be a lot harder for Miles to come at you if you get some of these other pieces out off the board anyway. But I think that you go all in on voting out Miles and you make the rest of them choose a rock.
Well,
make
then
them
it would
choose
be Zara and AJ choosing the rock.
Okay, let them. Like, why should Kaylin care about either one of those people choosing a rock?
Well, AJ, he's wanted AJ. He doesn't want. I don't think he wants AJ to go home.
I mean, he doesn't plan on going to the end with AJ allegedly, right? Like, if he plans, like, why not? Why not do it? What's the worst that could happen? Zara goes, okay. You probably go and win this next challenge if Zara's not there. Who knows? You don't know. So I don't know. I feel like this was a missed opportunity as well. I'm not like the rocks guy. I don't want to be that guy, but I do feel like when you get it to the point where you and your closest ally or whoever you want to, or you get to the point where you just need to win a couple more challenges to win the game, why not? If you're immune, I'm one of those people like, if I'm immune, let's go to rocks, whatever. Y'all draw rocks. I don't have to. For Kaylin, I feel like there was no downside. AJ goes, boom, you're good. Zara goes, boom, you're good. They're both AJ is not targeting you. So I guess that's even, that's worse for you because you think that AJ is going to take you to the end and maybe you're fine with that. But for Zara going, oh well. And then again, if people flip, you get Miles out, who is targeting you to some extent. So I don't know. I wasn't here last episode to yell about rocks, but if I was, I would have definitely been like, Kaylin, why not put them on rocks? What was that going to do?
Yeah. So wait. So Kaylin would vote with Kate and Morgan in this world against Miles.
Yes.
And Miles, AJ, and Zara are voting
against
Morgan. So yeah. So
and Miles in theory, is Miles voting out Morgan?
Yeah, he did.
But like, should he be in that moment? You know what I'm saying? Like, the big fear here is that Miles is going to take Morgan and utilize her in a way that that it eliminates obviously this Kate shield or whatever. With Morgan being there, obviously Kate is still there because she wins that immunity. But I feel like you might even get Miles to flip in that situation if you need to. Well, I guess Miles can't even flip. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. That's what it is. You vote. You stay on the rocks. Make them go to rocks. Do it.
This Endgame is so finicky. I think at the point where Morgan is going, if you it is unfortunate that Miles wanted Morgan to stay and he had done good work with Morgan. At the point where Kate is staying, it's the hope is that you can get Kate onto a Kaylin or AJ vote in the next round, which is what happens. And he does get that. He loses Zara. So I feel like Miles is thinking well, I have Zara, and so that should have worked out for the vote that he wanted in taking out at that point maybe a Kaylin or an AJ. And I think that if you are AJ and Kaylin, the hope is that you now have kept Kate. I think coming over the top of the split is more attractive to me than sending everyone to rocks, even immune where you could lose an ally in AJ. But I do think that this is. But just,
is he your ally if you're just about to vote him out the next round?
Well, not the next round. You can go to the final 3 with AJ, who's not great at a challenge, and then cut him.
But Miles tried to vote him out the next round. He literally, we just watched it. He did. So that's what I'm saying. So why not? Last round, you had him. Just do it. And you did such, like you said, you did such good work with Morgan that if her and Kate are around, maybe they stick with you for a little bit. Maybe you have now a team to go up against Zara and Kaylin.
Right. But, well, no, I mean, if you're Kaylin here, then I think that you have, the hope is that you have AJ, and then Kate becomes a bit of a swing vote to try and vote out Zara, which maybe she does. Kate has had the better relationship with AJ. So you have a couple of outs. You have the outs that Kate will just be the shield and you'll get through on that. And that, to be fair, does pan out in its macro way.
That's exactly how it works.
You have the out that you could maybe take out Zara next time, which again isn't amazing for Kaylin, who I kind of feel needs to sit next to Zara. So yeah, I mean, I do think that trying to take out Miles at the final 6, knowing that he would come for him and knowing that if you have to sacrifice Zara because Miles is the one with the idol at 5, you are already relying on Kate, which makes it tricky. Then she wins immunity, which makes it impossible. But if you even want to take out Zara, Man, this endgame is really, really tough. The only thing I
Yeah.
know is that Zara did the wrong thing. That I can be. Everything else is really, really tough. But it is interesting to look back at those options where it's like, yeah, if he can keep in, and also Kaylin might need to keep in people he can beat, which might be like a Morgan, which might be like a
Morgan.
Zara. You don't want
Yeah.
Zara and Morgan to get to a final four together because again, they should really take each other. But if you could get, at that point at least have one of them get through. Yeah, there's some interesting
Yeah.
stuff there. But then again, if you have to
Yeah.
target Zara next time, then he's really like, losing some chances, or he might be an actual target, or he has to take out Kate with a shielding strategy, which does work. And
Yeah,
that's the
I
thing that
think-
works out. It just works differently than how we would have anticipated it working.
Yeah, I think AJ getting his way last round was worse for everybody, and I think that anybody, if you could have stopped that, you were supposed to, right? Like if that meant going and keeping Morgan in the game, then that's what you had to do. If it looked like rocks, whatever, you had to keep Morgan in the game because that was legitimately like the worst case scenario for AJ at that point. AJ being like, all right, Zara, I want Morgan out and you want Kate out. What are we going to do? And Zara being like, well, it needs to be Kate. It needs to be Kate. I will not move. I'm unbudgeable. And then her gifted this idol challenge, and she wins, obviously, because she is a beast and they all know it, or at least a challenge enthusiast, I will say. I think that was like the wrinkle. But the idea is still, you should be thwarting AJ's plan right now. And so when Kaylin and Miles allow Kate to get through, it does exactly what we saw in this episode. It allows him one more shield for one more week to maneuver one more time. And he has Kaylin, who in his pocket, allegedly, perceived in his pocket. So I think that, yeah, this was your chance. You need to start weakening AJ. And I think they're all just counting on, if I want him out bad enough, I'll vote him out at the final three. And the only person who was not feeling that way this round was Miles. And so maybe it was a mistake. Who knows?
Which is funny because if you vote him out the final three, the odds are that Miles might be there, and then you're going to lose to Miles anyway, which is true for everyone who's not Miles. So I think there's some interesting stuff there. I think at the final six, when you're voting out Morgan, the reliance for like an AJ is that Zara will vote out Kate, and she does. Like that actually does work out. So it's like you can't discredit it so much. And to be fair, like Zara and Miles are like, no one knows we're working together this closely, so they might be underestimating parts of that, but it does play out in the way that they are like anticipating Zara will vote. So I think that there are part that only takes them to this 2-2 here, which isn't a great situation. Again, I think it's probably the best situation for an AJ who does want Miles and Kaylin in a final three. I think that's a really good final three for him, but for Kaylin, that's not necessarily the best, but I think that they did enough last time, even with Zara being immune, where there was enough here. Especially for like AJ, who should want a Zara out, that really like messed him up. But there still was enough there where they were right that like Kate would be the target of Zara. And so I think there's stuff there. I think this is the kind of thing I'm going to look back on and be like, what is anyone following any of this? This is very, very tricky. This is some tricky 2-1-1, 1-2-1. Can't even count the ones. Like my brain is. I said my brain was broken before, and then there was a 2-1-1-1. So yeah.
Yes, but now we have to count the Chizzy.
But there's a couple more. There's just one other thing. Well, maybe more. Actually, I need to read.
Or I guess we need to count the jury as well.
Yeah. That's where I wanted to go to. Yes. Morgan has left the jury. This changes a lot. So now is it going to be an 8-person jury with a final 2?
I mean, it is doable. We have seen ties in Survivor. I mean, there's nothing to say that you couldn't get a tie any other way. Like in a 3-person.
But a 3-person, we know how that works, right? The 3-person tie, the third person votes. There's no third person in a final 2. We've had this obviously in Micronesia. People were like, we wanted to make it a tie just to see what would happen. I don't have a perfect way to solve the final 2 tie. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I do think that AJ and Miles just tying and splitting the money like Hunger Games style is a fine end to the season.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see how they get to a final 2 together, but in a perfect narrative, I do think. How do you split a final 2 tie?
Yeah, you have to eliminate a jury vote, and so they've done that in Australian Survivor before.
Yes, right. That would make it a final 3 though. You would think that if they're going to eliminate a juror, that then the next episode should be a non-elim, which should make that a final 3. However, the next time on really makes it seem like Miles is in like a do or die immunity challenge, or maybe that's what they just think before they get there.
Right.
Yeah, this would be a very unfortunate way to be a surprise final 3, which is something I don't like production doing on purpose and might be something production have to do by accident given that someone has left the jury. So in that case, that would really suck, to be honest, because all of them have been making all of these calculations based on a final two. Like, the only reason that we are having these conversations is because people have like pairs at best. You know, had it been a final three, this would have been a smoother end game where people probably would have shored up a final three and like marched it down from a final six. But it's tricky because it's a final two, which makes it really complicated, makes final fours really complicated, makes the final five really, really complicated, as we're seeing in these plurality votes. My brain and mouth are broken because there's no majority even yet at this final five. And that makes it really, really hard. And I think that at the point where Zara's making decisions about who she can beat in a final three challenge, and then there is no final three challenge, like everyone making decisions on like Zara will take me through, Kayn will take me through in this final two, for it to change last minute would be, I think, a very unfortunate way to upend gameplay in a way that I can't even blame production for, because this just looks like a tricky spot. So maybe next episode is a vote and a juror remove. I don't know how they could do that, or maybe they just go to the final two with an 8-person jury and we just like see what
just roll
what
the
happens.
dice. Yeah. And then I think the final, like if it's a final three, like the person that's worse for is Zara, right? Like that just like completely, like if you think she's drawing dead now, if it's a final three, she's definitely drawing dead. There's a 0% chance that she will win the game.
Yeah.
It just you don't have the resume at that point in any shape, form, or fashion. Socially, strategically, like even if everybody else was mad at the other two people, you still wouldn't win that iteration, because you kind of need to have that head on a spike, you know, and I just don't think you get it in a final three where you're sitting next to AJ and Miles, or you know, or Kaylin and AJ, whatever the iteration. Like there's just no configuration.
No.
But I think she always makes it to the final three at that point, like literally 100% of the time. It's like, so that's a win, I guess, in a weird way. And I just think that at that point, you're now like assuming you're gonna vote someone off the jury, you got to start counting your votes too. So they should know. Like I think they should be aware. I don't think they should surprise them at this point. The moment we find out Morgan leaves the game, I think everyone in the game should be aware if it's the final two or final three. Like I just think that's like common courtesy, right? Like a person left the game and left the jury, and that is like, I won't say it's unprecedented, but it definitely is unorthodox at best, and it's against the rules, you know, of like gameplay. Like we definitely did not sign up for somebody just leaving the jury, and so I think you could give us that, you know, but it doesn't look like they've been told that, so we'd have to just wait and see what happens.
They're definitely assuming a final two. I do think that it would mostly screw over Kaylin, because like, yes, Zara like can't win in a final three, and to be fair, like maybe could win in a final two with Kaylin. And we do say all the time, like anything can happen, especially in a final two. So it should be unfair for Zara. In saying that, I think that even with the calculations of a final two, Zara hasn't been making moves to her benefit to help her win a jury vote. So I'm like less, you know, mad on her behalf, where I feel like she's saying she wants to go to the end with the Miles anyway. And I'm like, all right, the game is lost for you. But if Kaylin's path, which we hear less about, had been cutting AJ at the end, like if his path is like, you know, we take out Kate here and then we run it down, we like target Miles at the final four. And at that point, like actually now like Zara and Miles are cut up and they seem to maybe underestimate that relationship in ways, but to be fair, also like actually get the relationship right, where Zara does vote with them, as we're saying here, to take out Kate for her own interest, but still has gone with that. If he can be like, I'll take out Miles at the final four, and then his plan had been to cut AJ at the final three and take Zara, that is a winning game that is fine. But it relies on a final two. And if it was going to be a final three, like he has to actually just take out AJ here. Like at the point where Miles is immune, he needs Miles and AJ out at 5 and 4. So he needs to be relying on like a Kate. He needs to be relying on a Zara. And if anything, then he should be sticking way more to keeping like a Morgan around possibly at the final 6. Or there is a possibility there that, you know, that he gets like taken out before the final 3. But like, then you should start looking at more goats. Like if it's a final 3, you need to beat more people next to you, then Kaylin's strategy of I'm just going to really like lay low, have people underestimate me, is a trickier strategy where you need more goats next to you and maybe you should protect them more. So for Kaylin, that would be very unfortunate to find out. Well, he found it tonight, to be fair, that Morgan is gone. So I think that my hand would go up to be like, is it a final 2 still? Because that's going to change everything. Like at that point, I might be just turning on AJ and being like, next time, Kate and Zara, we can't sit with Miles, and then trying to beat like a Kate at the final 3. So I really hope that they know what it is. I still hope it's a final 2 because I love a final 2. And I feel like this has made this endgame so challenging for us, for everyone, except Zara's clear path. I think we're like, you know, we're really tying ourselves into knots with it. But if those calculations are being made on the wrong assumption and it's a final 3, then yeah, you can clear out some people where, you know, for especially like a Kaylin who's we don't know his pathway, like that seems quite unfair.
Yeah, I think a final 3 is great for AJ. I think everybody should be looking at AJ as the next vote if it's a final 3. I think that him in the final 3 is a death sentence for literally everybody. Maybe not Miles, but I think that
Well, Miles
AJ,
and AJ sitting at the end with Miles and
yeah,
AJ is really bad. And
yeah, it's
now
just
it's the final
crazy.
3. One of them will be with you in the final 3.
Yeah, and I'm thinking AJ beats Miles even like with Miles
Yeah, I
failing
think so.
at. Yeah, well, I mean, with Miles targeting him and failing this round, it also doesn't look great, right? Like you came for the king, you best not miss, you know, and you miss. And so I think that this is great for AJ if it's a final 3. I want to say something that AJ's been doing really good, that I like has been like really downplaying Kaylin's threat level. Like, he's like, yeah, he's winning a bunch of challenges, and I hope he wins them all. You know, like because
Yeah.
that to me, then I can't punish you for getting to the end with him. You're like,
Yeah.
you
That was my
sat by the
strategy.
person who won 8, 9 immunities. And what do you got to
He
say
was
for
the
yourself?
muscle. Yeah.
He's like, I needed him to win 8, 9
It was by
immunities. Are you
design.
crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also didn't think he was going to beat me. So, and I still don't. 9, 10 immunities. He broke the record 3 times over. And yet here I am still telling you to vote for me because that was nothing. I didn't even want him out. He only needs the immunities if we want him out. He lost the immunity challenge, and we didn't vote him out because we're not threatened by him. You know, I always thought that was the same thing that they did really well in 41. They did not care about Xander and all of his stuff. They didn't care about his immunities wins.
Yeah.
They didn't care about his advantages. They were like, we're not voting for him anyway. He's not a threat. And so this is really good for AJ. A final 3 would be perfect because Kaylin's not going to beat him at that point. He already thinks he's going to go to the end with Kaylin and beat him anyway. The only person he really has to worry about is Miles, and Miles just shot and missed. And so, yeah, the narrator, JLP, he does say things are just working out in AJ's favor. And I mean, you got to give some credit to just being, not only savvy, but also lucky. And I think a lot of things are falling in his direction right now.
Yeah, although again, like I think that I see the vote a little differently now. Where to be fair, the split works. The split works. It's just that it also necessitates like they didn't have Kate, and then Kate, but then Kate also didn't vote with Miles. That's the way that this goes. But there's a lot of macro strategy. I think when things are so finicky like this is the main thing that I learned from 45 when it was the 2-1-1-1. Yeah, is that I think, and I've said this, but like sometimes you don't know where everything's going to go, and you can't rely on just being like, I knew where every vote was going to go in a 2-1-1-1. Zara did for the first time ever. Yeah. Zara did know that. She made the wrong choice. But I think sometimes it's like you've put enough in place that even when things mess up, you are relying on the right things to be your shield. And literally Kate was his shield, but also knowing that like that Zara would care about that. You know, there's something there. She does choose them. It doesn't go exactly as planned. No one can say that that's true, but I think that that's the way that I see it now. She chose their split. Yeah, that's what she voted as they intended her to vote for Kate. The only vote that surprised them was, well, Kate voting for not with them wasn't great. And then, they wouldn't have thought that Miles would vote for him, which was so funny, by the way. I think he's like, why? Because he thinks that they have been incentivized to go forward together. And also, I really loved it. And I talked about it yesterday with like what Morgan and Kate had in crying. I loved that scene of Miles crying about voting out his best friends. Like, this is like the emotional moment with these 3 guys who I've called one of the most successful alliances in probably Survivor history, the most comprehensive, well-rounded alliance where everything, strategy, idols, challenges, they've had it on lock. And this is like them finally turning on. It's actually like a really perfect moment of the season, to the point where maybe it is the defining moment of the season. Mike and I said it might be Miles picking up the idol, but I kind of feel like there might be something in that 3 finally coming for each other. Outwit, play out last. Let's see where it goes. But then Zara being like, nope, and still upending their power structure that they don't even want to maintain is actually the end game of the season in a like perfect nutshell. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Miles just doesn't want to maintain it, right? Like, Miles is the thorn in this alliance's side. He says it himself. Everyone's so paranoid about if anybody's gonna get, a little wild at the final 5 and do something weird. It's me. I'm Miles. It's me. I'm wild. I'm about to do it. You know, they're trying to keep the power structure exactly how it is. Kaylin and AJ are like, no. We need Kate to go, and then we'll go from there. Miles is like, nah, this is my chance. This is definitely
But
my
they're not
chance.
bringing
So
Miles into the Kate plan, I guess, because they don't trust the idol. So they
don't
know
trust
that Miles
Miles.
is flipping, and then they are
Uh-huh.
reacting to him being
Yeah,
the
exactly. This is the
rat,
save
as
for
always. Yeah.
AJ. This is the save Kaylin plan. You know, like that's what it is. It's like, no, Miles is about to do something weird. I gotta make sure Kaylin is still here. But yeah, it's a very interesting alliance. I agree. I liked last week's or yesterday's episode, I guess I should say, when Kate is faced with voting out Morgan and she just starts to cry. Because I actually was like sitting there thinking, like, damn, AJ, this is not a good look. You know, like, is this your bedside manner? Is this what people are gonna think about you at the jury? But and he
vote out, like, he was giving her the lifeline, and she was like,
yeah,
you know, cutting with his scissors.
but it's like almost like 2 game body. You know, it's like you're telling me to come vote out my best friend, and like I have to have an emotional response to it. And AJ is kind of sitting there like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And so in this episode, it's like, well, you know, he's like, you know, like, and so he even says like, oops, my bad. Like I don't know if I said it right, you know. But then shortly after he goes, so you still gotta vote for her, or it's gonna be you. Bye. Look, you know, but I think that, you know, seeing that was more human, I think, is what I'm saying. And then like having Miles make his moment as well, where he's like talking to AJ, but then he just kind of pauses and looks at us with the in the interview in the confessional. It's like, yeah, like this is supposed to happen, but it's gonna be really hard for me to do it. I'm not gonna love it, but it needs to happen. So I like that. I like including that in the show.
As a fellow gamebot who is emotional as well, I think let Kate cry, like, of course, but then like vote her out, you know? And I think that's what I love about Miles's moment is like, it would be boring if he was like, that's the end of the game and I don't care. Bye, AJ. But no, it affects him. Of course it affects him, but he's still going to do it. It's like the pain of that and the emotion of that, while still actually not, you know, giving up your entire game, which Kate was like willing to do for Morgan, is probably, that's what I love. I love so much of this. I don't know how the audience will respond to it, because it's like you do get the really fun plurality vote, but then you also get the fact that Zara just like, you know, maintains that structure. I think people will maybe be tearing their hair out as much as I am, but I love the way they did this. I mean, to see the full circle, it's like AJ's gonna vote for Kate, Kate's gonna vote for Kaylin, Kaylin's gonna vote for Miles, and Miles is gonna vote for AJ, and then like back around the circle we steal, and like we even get Zara's vote. I think they did that really brilliantly. I think they had a lot of fun with it. I had fun with it too. It's all very finicky. I hope that this podcast made sense, but I also feel like the one thing I know is that Zara made the wrong call. The one thing I come in with where I'm like, that I see, and I saw Miles's pathway too. It didn't go so well, unfortunately. And I think you've clarified for me around like, I think that AJ and Kaylin really won this, which kind of changes some of my chizzy points. So we should talk about that.
Ooh.
Take it away, Jacob Weinstein and MC
1,
Color.
2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's getting kind of chizzy. 3, 2, 1.
Yes. So, yeah. Okay, what are you going to do? Because I feel, okay, what you go first.
Okay. But I know you're not going to agree with me, but here we are. I
feel like you changed my chizzy points. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
no, you're gonna need to Zara. Do not do it, Chappell. I swear to God.
No. I'm not gonna do that. I'm torn because I don't know what Kaylin wants. But I thought the move to make sure that Miles in case Miles outed himself as coming after Kaylin, to get that vote on Miles was in theory a really good thing to do, right? Like if they think that Miles is really gonna flip, and if Kaylin's like world is that like, no, it makes total sense for Miles to come after me right now, and he's wrong because Miles is going to go after AJ. But if he's thinking Miles is going to come after him, which does make sense for him, then making sure that he's able to kind of cover his bases by saying, okay, well, if Miles doesn't play the idol on himself, he will go home here. I thought that was a cool move from Kaylin. It did not work because it wasn't necessary. But I think like he should be playing defensively. I think as somebody who doesn't have the idol, who's had it for so long, who has a massive target on their backs, I don't think you can leave that up to chance. So I wanted to reward him for that. On the flip side, AJ got exactly what he wanted. That's the sentence. And so it's like, that's it. AJ got exactly what he wanted. He knew it was going to be Kate or Kaylin here. He wanted it to be Kate. That was it. Kate's gone. And his plan worked out from last week too. He wanted Kate around just so he could do this very thing that he ends up doing. And it seems like people, aside from Miles, have incorrectly assumed that sitting next to him would be okay. And I'm like, all right. So I can't
Zara
figure out.
also says not, to be fair.
Oh, she
Like,
doesn't.
that's the thing I'm lowest on
Yeah.
for AJ, is that I feel like AJ hasn't done so well in being like taken to the not as well as Miles has done, where Zara says she wants to sit with Miles and not AJ. It's probably my biggest criticism.
Well, it's just because we don't hear anybody say they want to take AJ. But it's like
we've never heard anyone say they want to take AJ.
Right. We just hear, I think we were assuming that Miles wanted to take AJ, but which of course obviously changed over the last couple episodes. And for me,
I never thought that Miles wanted to take AJ to the end. I thought that Miles might want to take AJ to the final 3 and then paint him as a bigger threat. And then whoever that third person is, like Zara probably takes Miles, Kaylin maybe takes AJ.
So for me, I guess because we keep hearing AJ say that he wants to sit next to Kaylin. So it's like, by proxy, I kept assuming that Kaylin wants to sit next to AJ, but you're right, we never heard him say that. So it's kind of like I'm torn, because I thought Kaylin's move was probably more like was very astute to realize that Miles is probably going to come for him and that he needs to be protecting against it. But he was wrong. Miles came for AJ, but AJ got exactly what he wanted in going for Kate.
Yeah,
I'll give 3 points to AJ. I'll give 3 points to AJ because he got exactly what he wanted in going for Kate. I think that he was not expecting. Obviously, he wasn't expecting Miles to vote for him, but it didn't matter. Because he had already done, like you said, you'd already done the work to get you to this point to where this would be okay. It was
I
just
do
like
love that, like, AJ rarely ever gets votes. I think he got a couple of the Laura vote. He negated the one of Noonan and like the one he's gotten now from Miles. But like the fact that Miles came from him and he's still in the game is just like a really fun dynamic. That is so entertaining. Yeah.
And then of course I'm gonna go with Kaylin after that. Because like I said, I really did think that was like being aware that Miles is like about to do a thing here is a problem. Like, I'm glad you caught on. Now, someone has to get one point.
Someone's got to get one of those.
Huh?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. There's 5 people. I hated Zara's decision. Kate goes home. Then there's Miles.
Yeah. And Miles votes incorrectly for who we assume is one of his top allies. At least we don't ever hear AJ saying it's time to cut out Miles. So it's like, do I
Well, we don't hear that. But like Miles's pathway also, to be fair, does make sense. Assuming Zara won't cut him, which he seemingly won't. So like it's not about the fact that AJ wants to cut Miles. It's just about the fact that he can make this move and have it be fun. It should be AJ or Kaylin, and Kaylin being there with less of a chance to work with Kate gives him a really good setup at 4, and then a really good setup at 3 where Zara does want to take him. It's just that at that point but can we blame him? Can we blame him when Zara's path is so clear?
But he missed. Yeah. And see, by missing, now what's stopping AJ and Kaylin from looking at you as the next person, right? Like Zara should be so.
AJ should not let Miles go, because if AJ lets Zara and Kaylin get to a final 3 challenge and they win, which is the extreme likelihood over him, he's out. Like, I think that Zara's taking Kaylin. She's most likely to win the challenge. Kaylin would be very tempted, I should hope, to take Zara, and maybe he's again misreading Kaylin. I don't know which one it is. He should not let Miles go. Like, this is my whole point, is that I felt like he's been relying so much on Kaylin, and I don't know if that's the right bet for AJ, but I do know that going to the end with Miles and Eka Kaylin is like, Kaylin, you should take me now, not just because you love me, but because Miles is the rat. He had 4 idols. Like, there's a real story there. So I think that he should really make sure that Miles gets through. And that's why I think that this is a tricky final 4, because I don't think Kaylin should do that or Zara should do that. But I don't know. Zara's not worked in her best interest so far. And again, like, I don't know the path for AJ, but I do think that this final 4 is a good path for him, but it's the best path for him within the realms of where he is, but keep Miles.
I hear you, but I'm torn because AJ just came for you. So what's to say AJ doesn't come for you next round?
Well, AJ, he didn't. He had to.
Yeah, but what's to say that he doesn't do it next?
Zara is terrible in this game for AJ. I will say that. That's why I'm like, maybe AJ should have taken out Zara last time. If he could, he should have taken out Zara this time. And if he can, he should take out Zara next time, for the reasons of Zara is now the potential. He went goat hunting on Morgan. Zara is the goat that you don't want with you in the final 3. She's most likely to win the challenge and not take you. We've heard her even say it.
That's true.
And if like a Kaylin wins, like you really want to take Zara over AJ, it would be a game-losing move not to, especially now that I don't even think Zara has as much to speak to, and especially if she doesn't win the final challenge, she's perfect to take through to the end. And we don't know that Kaylin wouldn't do that. So taking Zara through the final 3, like again, AJ can beat probably anyone. He doesn't need someone who's an easy beat the same way Kaylin might need it. I really think Zara's terrible in this game for AJ, but he just like maybe he should have taken the spot last time. He thought he maybe could take the shot this time, that she's immune. Like I think that makes it tricky for AJ, but I think that Zara needs to go for AJ. But the thing is, she doesn't need to go for anyone else, and that's what makes AJ's path incredibly tricky.
I wanted to give like I really wanted to. I'm really torn because I have to give 1 point to somebody. And I like you made a really good point against Zara getting any points this round. Like you really have. But for AJ, I'm just like, you missed.
Yelling. Yeah.
Yeah. But you missed.
Well, this is what an interesting philosophical question. Is it better to plan well and miss, or to hit a target that is so self-defeating? Is this the question? It's an interesting philosophical question about whether would you rather try and do the right thing and fail, or succeed in shooting yourself in the foot? Like, yes, she hit her target, but the target was her own foot, and now she can't walk. Zara, what happened?
But she will probably be in the final 2 at the very least.
She'll lose the worst spot in the game.
But she will at least make it. You know, whereas I'm like,
what $0, Chappell? Like, I genuinely pray for
the
her.
$0 is crazy.
She has nothing to speak to now.
Yes,
she has nothing to speak to. She has a complete wrong read on the game, and I'd pay money not to be in a final 2. And I genuinely mean this because I've spoken to a lot of people who've been in a final 2 or 3 position and gotten 0 votes. I don't know if Zara, she would get Karen, but gotten not a lot of votes. And it's genuinely psychologically traumatizing to put yourself in a spot where you were going to be lambasted by a jury that we see in Jury Villa that are happy to chew people out, and sit in a final tribal council where people just tear apart your game, probably worse than I'm doing now. It's something I genuinely wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and I definitely don't wish it on Zara. I genuinely I thought that Morgan might have a chance at a final 2, so I thought she shouldn't want to leave the game. However, leaving the game instead of experiencing that genuinely will save money in therapy bills, and you don't even get money to pay for the therapy. So she's most likely to get to a final 2, and getting to a final 2 where you're going to lose, especially against like a Miles. Awful situation. Like genuinely,
you're
right.
You're right.
Other than being like a really early boot and not getting the experience, I think it's just worse. I just wouldn't wish it on anyone. It's horrible.
No, you're right. Because if you don't make the final 2, you can always say, if I made it, I would have won.
Yeah, exactly. It was one challenge away. Rob gets to do that all the time.
One challenge away. Yeah. Okay, you win. I agree. I think you swayed me because, like I said, I was on the fence. Because I'm like, I really don't like that you just like went after AJ and you missed. Because now you have to, let's say you have to sit next to AJ, right? Which would be great for AJ. But now he can be like, you tried to get me out and you couldn't. And I'm right here next to you. Like you went big game hunting and you missed. You know what I'm saying? Like you weren't able to catch me. I'm right here. You know, like I'm like, I don't love that. But also, Zara, I don't think Zara can win anymore. Now, if Zara wins the game, I want to like be able to like results oriented, be like, see, I knew it. I knew this was the right. Like,
who did she beat?
Listen,
Kaylin. She doesn't even want to sit next to Kaylin. And I don't know what she would speak to against Kaylin now.
Yeah.
She's lucky Morgan's not on the jury. Because Morgan's one of the many people who should be like, Morgan actually said last episode, she's dead meat. Why isn't she working with us? And I was like, actually facts. Like, yes.
Zara should have let them go to Rocks when Kristen should have went to Rocks. She should have really been like,
I'm like, not even the Rocks. The Rocks was the
Rocks was fine.
That was fine.
She should.
But after that, the final 9 with the Karen vote, to be fair, that wasn't on her, but I was like, I wish they came over the top with her. And then when Kristen went, I was like, she should have paired up with Kristen. Then last episode, I was like, she should have strapped herself to Morgan. And here I'm like, there was a pathway and you didn't literally, I'm a broken record at this point on Zara's decisions. Really becoming like a ground rat day of just like, what are you doing? Yeah.
3 for AJ, 2 for Kaylin, 1 for Miles. And it's a begrudging 1 for Miles because you got caught slipping.
Okay. Firstly, a lot of this is very confusing. And the numbers are really tricky. And my notes are like, I'm like reading my notes, I'm like, what am I even? But when I feel like I come home when I'm ranting about Zara, it's like the one thing I feel so sure about. I'm like, I'm back where I should be, just ranting about the situation. Yes. Okay. I couldn't give him, I'm going to give 3 points to Zara. Can you imagine?
I'm waiting on you to give like 1 point to Kate so I can just like my head can explode.
No. I like again, like to have full control is a credit. Everyone wants to work with you. Everyone needs to work with you. You have a lot of power. Winning the immunity gave you a lot of power. I can't reward someone using that power for such a net negative when the positive is there. When I'm so confused about everything other than the fact that you played yourself. So none to Zara. Sorry, Zara.
Okay.
I'm sorry about this whole podcast, but I just feel so strong. Okay, I'm going to give 3 to Kaylin. I feel like he was never going to be the target. Like, to be fair,
Never.
AJ was like a question. And Kaylin's shield strategy has worked so well to the point where he like wasn't going home here after all. That's like, that's played out over weeks. So yeah, and I feel like, he's doing they did get their plan through. So I'll give 2 to AJ.
Wait. Is this the Kaylin shield strategy or is this AJ being like, I refuse to lose Kaylin?
I think at the point where Miles is going to AJ over Kaylin, it's the Kaylin's shield strategy. Because at the end of the day, Miles's target isn't even Kaylin. Like, yes, there are votes for everyone who's vulnerable, but like Kaylin's is a split,
Yeah.
Kaylin's is the only one who's a split. So I think it works out. I'll give 2 to AJ. I was actually going to give 2 to Miles. I
can't.
Yeah, no, but I think you convinced me. So we've done well because we're actually going to end up with very similar points. But I'm giving 2 to AJ. We think the target makes sense and is also just like a tricky spot. Yeah, and I think that the path is really hard. I'm just like a little concerned. Like, mine is on the assumption that Kaylin doesn't take him. And that's kind of where my points are. Like, I feel like he's a clear jury threat, and that's been the failing. And that's where like the path is really tricky for me. Whereas if it's a final 2, like, Kaylin can make that chance, like, can be taken by a Zara, possibly. Yeah. I don't know. I'm really torn between it. But I think as well what's important is like while they split their votes from each other and 1 vote for Kate and 1 vote for Miles, it doesn't actually matter. Because like say they both vote for Kate. If Zara's not with them, which is the threat here, and so Kate votes either, I don't know, Miles or now we know Kaylin, whatever. She's 1 vote on someone else. If they put their 2 votes on Kate, because she can't vote for herself, they can't get a majority on one of them. That's the like on Zara or Miles. That's the issue. Because they assume that they'll both be immune. So at that point where they can't try and get over actual numbers and offer Kate something actually good, their 2 votes are on Kate. And then say that they do vote for 2 on AJ, and then this is what Miles talks about, and that it's then an AJ Kate or a Kaylin Kate, whatever they choose, tie, and then that 2 will win over the top with immunity. So it doesn't matter that they split their votes. They were trying something here. They didn't get, I thought that, to be fair, I've been saying this whole time, they thought they had 4 people on the split and they had 2. In my mind, before I came on this podcast, I was like, they didn't have Zara. She made that choice herself individually, but no, she chose their side. And that's what you've really convinced me to, that they had 3 and that was enough. And the shielding strategy worked. So they're getting 3 and 2. And then I'm giving 1 to Miles. Well, I was going to give 2 to because I'm giving 1 now that I feel like I went that way. I can't blame him for the fact that this went badly. I really liked his path, and I liked the way he was setting up Kate to go next by voting for Kaylin. I thought it was, especially when you're immune, like really forward focused. You would think that Zara would go with it.
He didn't have it.
And I also see taking out AJ because I think that it makes for an easier final 4 where Kate and Kaylin are against each other, even though I think that parts of me are like, you could just take AJ through to 3 and more easily get rid of him at 3. I think it makes that 4 better where you never know if AJ is like, no, I want Kate in. At that point, maybe he's like, maybe I'll take it. Well, not Miles, but like, yeah, maybe we take out like a Zara and I go to the final 3 with like a Kate and a Miles. Kate may take me out of loyalty. Miles is a good person to paint as a threat, where Zara will take Miles. So I feel like Kaylin makes that an easier final 4 for Miles. So it was a good target. It was a good plan. Can't blame him that it didn't go well. Yeah. Okay. I think a lot of this podcast made sense. I think that when I get back to ranting about Zara, it makes a lot of it is really confusing. But that is because it is an interesting endgame, and I think that it looks like a steamroll of the postgraduates who, to be fair, do get to this final 4. I really like the graduates, so that's a fun thing in it that they get here. But yeah, I've been saying for a while that I feel like everyone has very individual intentions, and I think when we look back and talk about the final 6 and what people could have done there, this final 5, like people are even from their allies, like even from the fact that Kaylin should want to, like, take out a Miles and keep a Zara, from the fact that he's with AJ, but AJ should want to take out a Zara and keep a Miles. Like, even that, I think, like, there's such, people are in like 2s at best, and those 2s clearly, as we see with Zara here, are differing from each other. So I think that's really entertaining, Chappell. What a fun birthday. Have you had fun do you have a headache? But also, have you had a
No.
fun birthday weekend podcast with me?
Yeah, especially about the show. Like I've been getting caught up behind the scenes. Okay, so I think I only have 2 more seasons of Australian Survivor to watch, and then I'm like
Oh.
officially caught up. And then I'm gonna go watch some other global Survivor seasons. English speaking first, because I can watch it while I'm not really focusing, and then like when I get some time, sit down and read some subtitles. So yeah, I'm all in
Yeah.
now on Survivor internationally.
Yeah, but this should be our last recap. But I think we are hoping that it won't be.
Yeah,
haven't spoken
fingers
about it.
crossed. Yeah, I think we're in
Right.
negotiations to see
Scheduling-wise,
what happens next.
we are hoping for the best. But it would be really sad if it would be a good one, the 2-1-1-1. That would be a kind of a good one to end on, but we don't want that to happen.
No.
Yeah.
No, I want to come back. I want to come back if possible. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Maybe we can maybe I can show up for one of these late stage podcasts and really get to chop it up with you, and maybe Mike and Puya can come as well. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be great. Well, they don't have to. That's fine.
They don't have
You
to.
gave good cheesy points, so I'm willing
Thank
to consider you coming back here. Chappell, where can people find you?
People, if you obviously this is the last time you hear from me, thank you so much for enjoying my contribution to this show. Shannon, thank you for having me and letting me join you on your in your stomping grounds, because this has been so much fun. To all my Australians out there, what's happening? Appreciate y'all for showing some love too. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback, or you can subscribe, preferably please subscribe, recapkickback.com/subscribe, and then just leave me a 5-star review and be like, Aussies for life or something like that. Just let me know that it's from Australia with love, because I'm sending love from the States to Australia. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah, well, this is the longest recap. I think you longer than even Mike's recaps.
And
2-1-1-1.
I was keeping it brief. Remember, it's very zippy in the early days, and I broke the rules. Look at me.
Yeah. We've unzipped through really through this season, but it gets really, really complicated. These are the longest notes I had, and I don't even know how many of them I said that made sense on this podcast, but I know that Zara was wrong. Anyway, we've had a fun time. At Shannon Gates, we know globalsurvivor.com for all of this. We had the recap with Mike yesterday, then we've had Chappell, and then that's it for this week. On the recaps, we have Simon, me, on the feedback show, where we can maybe answer the questions we've posed. I think we've created more questions than answers, but I'd love to answer some of them with Simon. Should be getting an exit interview. I need to also, you can see how well the scheduling and the planning is going here at We Know Global Survivor, and covering Survivor 48, had a podcast with Harry about that. And then next week is the final week, and then we'll have Puya, and then Mike, and then hopefully more. We have then the feedback show next week. Anyway, you get it. You've been here for 8 weeks. It's crazy. We've ended week 8 by losing Kate. Yeah. I thought about that. And I also saw that great listener of the podcast, Pia, said on Blue Sky that we should have been calling Morgan and Kate mate this whole time. And I was like, oh, it's so late to realize that Morgan and Kate should have been mate, but we've worked it out in week 8. Way too late.
Yeah. There you go.
This whole time it was staring us right in the face.
It was right there. There was so much other stuff staring us in the face, Shannon. It's not our fault, okay? That was like on the 18th list of of all the things we were doing, that was low on the list.
You would think we'd get there eventually, but instead we're like, who should be voting for who? And it's all very individual. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of complex stuff. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Thank you, Chappell. And I will see you all next time. Bye.
All right. Peace.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.